Tech Cocktail Sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
I wanted to start actually with a thank you to Tech Cocktail and to the Downtown Project. I'm very happy to be here and actually very inspired to see the community that you're building and bringing together. The title of my talk today is Inspiration from Real Life, and the part that I left out is End Death. I'm going to be sharing with you several moments from my life that were that shaped my way of thinking that ultimately led to me wanting to found Cookbook Create. So I'm the founder of Cookbook Create. We're a platform where you can print on demand, publish your own cookbooks. You can add your own recipes to the site and then design your own book and order print on demand copies of it. And so before I start sharing with you some of these moments from my life, I'd like to ask all of you about your lives. And are there any recipes or dishes that remind you of your childhood or a happy moment?
Yes.
Yes? What reminds you of your childhood? Christmas cookies. What kind of Christmas cookies?
Lots of frosting.
Lots of frosting. Very sugary. Okay. Anyone else have anything that reminds them of their childhood food-wise? More?
Yes. Rice Krispie treats.
Rice Krispie treats.
Also very sugary.
Okay. Anyone else not named Frank have anything they want to share?
Chicken curry.
Chicken curry. Spinach pie. And what memories does chicken curry or spinach pie bring back to you? Family. And what does that mean to you? Love. Love, connectedness, warmth. And so that's really one of the things that drove me to found my company. And I'll share with you. So I'll start with the printmaking. So when I was in college, I studied studio art and intaglio printmaking, which is where you develop images on copper plates. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about printmaking was that you got to make something with your hands, and it had that DNA fiber of being something that was lovingly handmade, and it really looked like it was made by a person as opposed to made by a machine where you see images that come out of computer printers, and they just have that perfection, and they miss that handmade quality and that unique individualism that something that's handmade really sort of gives you. And I love the handmade quality of the printmaking, but then also the replicability of printmaking. So you could make one completely unique piece of art, but then you could replicate it and you could give it to many people. And so many people could actually experience the joy of this handmade piece of art. And so that's sort of one moment in time that I'll share with you. And then the next moment in time was after my grandmother had passed away. My uncle had brought this huge box of photos that was about this big, and it was stacked with a pile about that high of all of these photos. And he said, I think most of these are garbage. We're just going to throw them away. Does anyone in the family want to look through these photos? And there were no takers. And I said, how could you throw away all these family photos? And so I spent hours combing through each and every one of these photos and pulling out the ones that I thought really should be preserved and should be kept. And I wound up with about a shoebox worth of photos. So it turns out my grandfather liked to take pictures of weird things, like his ties in his closet. I don't really know why, but there were lots of pictures of his ties in his. I actually did keep one of his ties in his closet because I don't know. So my grandfather. As I was leaving my grandmother's memorial service, it so happened that my aunt was flying out of the same terminal at the airport, and she sat down next to me and she said, show me all of these pictures that you found. And so, as we're going through these photos, she's telling me, oh, that was her favorite outfit when she was younger, and she remembers that day, and can I just have that one photo? Oh, can I just have that album? And then the next thing that I know, I've actually forfeited the whole entire box of photos to my aunt, who pinky sweared and said that she absolutely would scan these and then send them back to me. And this was, I don't know, more than a decade ago, and I have yet to see these photos again. So, and there was this moment of sort of just anger. And I was so angry with my aunt. How could you do that? How could you take these photos and then promise that you'll give them back to me? And and I felt entitled to them. I felt they were mine. I took the effort of going through these hundreds of photos of ties hanging in my grandfather's closet and other things. And what I realized was, it was her childhood, but it's my father's childhood. And so who is more entitled? Is it she? Is it me? I don't know. And why can't we both have those memories? And why is it that, like with printmaking, everyone can't have that peace and that connection and that warmth and that memento and that memory? So that's another moment that I'll share with you. And then this next one also involves death, and it's sad, so I'm sorry. But that's part of life, it is. My mother passed away from lung cancer. She had spent about 7 years battling cancer. And so, basically for 7 years, I watched as death was about an arm's length away from us and our family. And, and going through that experience really made me think a lot about life and what does life mean? And not only what does it mean, but what do you want to do while you're here? And who do you want to be? And what do you want to leave behind when you're gone? And there was this one moment after my mom had passed where I was cleaning out one of the drawers, her top dresser drawer, and there were these hair combs. And this is going to make me cry. When I saw them, my mom hadn't had hair on her head for probably 6 or 7 years at that point, but she still had these combs. And to me, that object was a symbol of her hope. And it was one of those things where it made me realize how powerful objects are, and that they actually can represent so many different things and can tell you so much about a person. So from there, I'm going to go to a happier moment where I wanted to do something very special for my extremely serious father. He is the son of the man who likes to take pictures of ties in his closet. And my dad's very, very sort of serious and stern. But if you ask him about his childhood and what recipe reminds me of his childhood, he'll tell you it's his grandmother's chocolate drop cookies, or his mother's chocolate drop cookies. And these were always the first to sell out at the school bake fair. And and he would save his money so he could buy these cookies from the school bake fair because his mom wouldn't let him, sneak some off the side. So, these, and it always brings a smile to his face when you start talking to him about these cookies. So I had been looking for this family recipe. We had this version that was actually a mimeograph. I don't know if, some of you probably won't know what that is. Lean to someone who's older and ask them. But before photocopies. So we had this mimeographed version of this recipe, and it wasn't actually the recipe. It wasn't the right version, and I tried making it several times, and every time I would make it, it was like, no, that's not it. And so I contacted all of my relatives, and I said, where, do you have a copy of this recipe? Do you know what it is? What's missing? And they would give me the version, another mimeograph version of the wrong version of the recipe. So one day my dad says to me, Anna, you should look in your mom's cookbook. I was like, oh, that would have been a very logical place to start. And so and so to tell you about this cookbook, this is a a gift that was from my aunt to my mother, given to her in 1969. And throughout my childhood, I remember this cookbook always sitting in the same place in our kitchen on the shelf. And the book has a dozen recipes handwritten in the front. And then my mom had added all of these recipes over the years. And so I was, leafing through the pages of this book and looking to see, is the chocolate drop cookie recipe going to be in there? And I discovered that my great-grandmother's iced tea recipe is in there. My uncle's first wife, I forgot he had a first wife's recipe, is in there. And all of these, relationships and all of these moments in time and certain things that my mother used to make for me when I was younger, those recipes are in there. And as I was flipping through these pages, what I realized was that this cookbook actually was the story of my family told through food and told through these recipes. And that, my mother is no longer with us, but when I make those things that she used to make, it brings me back to that feeling of warmth and connection and of love. And so that's what inspired me to found my company, Cookbook Create, because I believe that not only as a family, it's really important for you to tell your story through food to preserve family culture. But it's also a very fun thing to do as a community, to celebrate the diversity within a community. So one of the projects that my company is working on is we're producing an official cookbook for South by Southwest for the Interactive Festival. So we have recipes from all different contributors. Randy Zuckerberg gave this recipe for bald eagle cookies, which I had never heard of before. I think my childhood may have been different had I known about them back then. They're these you take a marshmallow, big marshmallow, dip it in white chocolate and roll it in coconut, give it a cashew nose, which really actually looks like a bald eagle's beak, and then black frosting eyes, and you sit it on a chocolate dipped Oreo, and they're pretty amazing. So there's also a shot recipe from Tony Shea in the book, and and if anyone can guess one of the alcohols that's in the shot, I'll give you a free copy of the book when it comes out. Yes, true, true. But so in closing, I founded this company because I believe in community, and I believe in celebrating human connection and acknowledging and expressing that you care for people, and I think that there's really no more fun or delicious way to do that than through food. So thank you.
Let me do some Q&A. All right. Couldn't agree with you more. We've got a couple questions we can get in. So I see right here, John.
The aunt that sent you the cookbook, was that the same one that stole the pictures?
Different aunt.
All right. Next question. Over there. I'm going to have to run around here. Here you go.
What do you think the single hardest thing was in founding your company? The most difficult thing?
The single hardest, I think that's a very interesting question, because I think for founders, first-time founders, a lot of times you'll think, oh, if I just do blank, then everything will fall into place. And whatever this is always changes, and so it's not what has your biggest challenge been, it's what's your biggest challenge today, and then tomorrow, and then the next day, and the next day. And I think it's you're constantly facing bigger and bigger challenges, which is actually one of the things that I think is incredible and wonderful about entrepreneurship, is that it's constant. You're forced to grow every single day.
Definitely. One more question. Anyone? There's another one. I got to run back in front here. Last question.
With growing your company, then, what is your biggest challenge today?
Okay. What is my biggest challenge today? I would say, you know, we've been very focused on building the product, and right now we're at a point where we're shifting gears to, you know, really doing marketing. And so customer acquisition is the biggest challenge for us, is figuring out how do we build a repeatable business model where we can have a pipeline of customers coming to our site to Cookbook Create. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's hear it one more time for Anna. Great job.